All right. I hope everybody can see me and hear me. If you can see that I cut my own hair, which is great. So again, my name is Brad Christus. I'm the Global Director of Enterprise Solutions here at Celtra. And what we wanted to do is take you through a tech lab around how we help fuel production with creative automation. And creative automation may be a new term to some folks, but what we're seeing in the market is how some marketing teams around that we deal with are looking at how they deal with the growing content gap, right? And how do they leverage existing systems like their digital asset management system? How do they distribute that content to e-commerce systems, to CMS systems, and other systems that they may have? So there's kind of many challenges that we see, and I'll go through one or two of them while we're on this call. So the first challenge is brand governance, right? I think most of the folks that are attending this conference are pretty familiar with brand governance, and 60% of folks kind of distrust a brand when their ad design doesn't match that experience you have on a website or on a social platform, or even in a brick and mortar store, right? I could speak to when I have tacos, right? And I get a taco coupon or wherever it is, or an advert, and I go have that experience and it's completely different than what I thought it was. Or regardless if it's electronics, right? Where you're getting big box brand ads that are coming to you and you want to go buy the latest and greatest piece of tech, and the experience is a little challenging. So kind of that brand governance from ideation and creation to kind of consumption as a consumer, we see a lot of challenge with distrust around that. The other is kind of that dull creative, we call it, right? Where we get constantly bombarded with content and adverts and whatnot. And it's one thing to get different advertising from different folks, but it's another to have that stale piece of content that's kind of living around, where again, it gets stale to me. And as a consumer, I don't want that experience, regardless of what channel I'm consuming it in. And trust me, I'm consuming a lot of content on a lot of channels, on a lot of piece of glass. So these two challenges alone creates this kind of content gap, right? That is kind of emerging within the marketplace. And if you kind of look at this X and Y axis with volume and time, and I've been around for a little bit from the past to the present, you're starting to see this giant hockey stick of the demands that are created around new pieces of content. And those demands could be new products, right? Lots of new product offerings that go to market, multiple new campaigns, campaigns that kind of have multi-touch points around them, content refreshes. So taking existing content, refreshing that to address kind of that stale content or that dull content around the marketplace. And channels is massive, right? The amount of channels I have alone just on my device is crazy, right? From Pinterest to Insta to TikTok to all those wonderful things. And more testing too, to see what works and what doesn't work. And arguably, the production resources over time have kind of been flatlined, if not slightly increased in the last year and a half. But that creates a challenge, which is kind of this content gap that we address in our creative automation platform. But that's not the only thing, right? It's kind of modernizing or refactoring some of the workflows that we do inside of the creative operations to maximize that output. I promise I didn't make this slide, 10 minutes ago before we jumped in, but most of the production workflows that we see and we're a part of are pretty old school, right? From ideation to getting that ideation approved, to that concept, to this kind of copy and paste repeat marathon that we go through in our creative tools, to that kind of manual or maybe not manual creative review process. Maybe you have a tool that does that, where you're exporting and importing, making comments and annotations, and then the feedback from email to Slack to Teams to about the 45 other chat tools we have, to the approval stage, right? And then we realize that there's something a little bit wrong or a typo is inside the copy of those kind of variants that we created. So then we have to go back in the cycle of the workflow and then repeat those to hundreds, if not thousands of pieces of content we wanted to create before they go live. So we've seen this as a challenge at Celtra, and we have a tool, and we address kind of this creative automation challenge at scale. So what is creative automation? Basically what we want to do is creative automation, or what we do for our customers, I should say, is we take mezzanine pieces of content living inside of file systems, inside of digital asset management systems, wherever the repository is, allow those to be templatized, where we can put variables inside of those templates, and then scale those out based on a data stream that comes through inside the platform, and then go from one creative asset with living inside of your creative tool to scaling it pretty darn fast and creating multiple variants of those assets, right? And we can do it in a couple different ways. And just as examples, we can do just simplified localization. So if you see in this example, it's the same asset that would come from a digital asset management system. However, when you bring it into our automation platform, and I'll show you in a demonstration, is I'm able to tag different parts of the pieces of contents or the layers within inside the actual image itself, and then start to put variables associated to those based on the data stream that's coming in that I've identified. This is a simple translation. So if you look at the the images on the screen, you'll see the call to action button is translated. You'll see that the copy below the product with inside there is translated into different variants for different geographies. The other one is kind of personalization, right? So a lot of companies have a lot of data on me, good, bad, and indifferent, right? But personalizing the content that I get, knowing that I'm a persona that's consuming this much content or this much information on the interweb, right, as I like to call it, and then being able to apply different types of copy, different types of product shots, different types of talent shots that will resonate better with me as I go through kind of that campaign of pushing out these different adverts to those consumers. And then another one is formats, channels, and sizes, right? Again, we talk about multiple places where we want to distribute this content, and the ability to automatically scale based on the aspect ratio and kind of the formats that different channels need, regardless if it's social, ad serving platforms, or through APIs into your digital asset management system or e-commerce systems, right? We're able to kind of out of the box do some of those things with inside the platform, which is great. And with that, there's also tools, as you can see. I don't know if you see my mouse, but we start to put furniture around these things. So you know what it would look like with inside of Google or Insta, Twitter and Facebook and so on and so forth. So with that, I'm going to demonstrate how our creative automation platform works. So let me get to my desktop. So I'm in my Photoshop instance. I'm a creative person. I've got notified either through workflow, through email, through my Workfront application, whatever tools you're using, that I need to work on a new product. We have an existing digital asset management tool. In this case, we have partners at Tenevis. I'm using their StoryLink integration into Photoshop, where it's very data-driven first, where I can find the assets I need, knowing what I'm working on within here. So again, I can go in here into the StoryLink feature with inside Tenevis, go in and check these things out. And again, it's governing the asset with inside that digital asset management tool for me to start making modifications. And as it comes through, you'll see that we want to preserve the layers and so on and so forth with it. So I'm going to clear that out. We'll close this guy. So again, as a creative, I can come in here, do all sorts of fun stuff that I want to do. The cool thing about Tenevis and their digital asset management tool is that we'll start to make predictions of things that I want to do to validate placed assets that I have in here. So as a creative person, I can come in and look at different things and make modifications with inside of my actual tool as I go. As you can see, there's some predictions that says, hey, maybe you want to use these assets around your placed graphics that are in there. Now, the neat thing about this is that as a creative person, as I'm working in here, it's checked out. I want to check it back in and save it. At the same time, I can live with inside this tool and leverage an export function that we have natively with inside the Adobe Creative Suite. So again, I can say, all right, let's load this bad boy into the campaign I have over in a creative automation in our platform. I basically click on this button and it starts to do a sync. Tons of cool features around here of how I can export the layers. But you can see in real time, as I kind of move this around, you'll start to see it syncing up to there. So as a creative person, I've finished all the magic that I need to do with inside this tool. And now I'm going to go into the creative automation platform that we have at Celtra. So as I come into the experience, it's kind of organized based on projects. I know that that particular asset I was working that I got from Tenevis, right, is associated with this campaign. So I'm going to actually go into this campaign, take a look at it. You can see that I put it with inside my design file. Now, inside a design file, there's kind of three key components, right? I have this ability to make templates. I have the ability to create feeds, and then the ability to create those creatives and all those different variants that I want to do. So the templates, I'll launch into that. As it loads, you'll be able to see it has a kind of a designer Adobe-esque feel, so we can come in and do a bunch of cool things with inside of there. I pre-built this one in the interest of time, but I'm working with 3 different types of content in here. I want to create a Facebook image. I want to create some animated HTML and also some static content, right? So I'm going to click on that static content. Again, I have, if you look on the left-hand side, I have multiple different images that I want to create. So if I click on this is my 300 by 250. I have my 728 by 90, right? My 160 by 600. Each one of these are a unique template. And with inside of each one of these, I can create even more formats. So at the end of the day, I want to create 7 different formats based on that asset I pulled from Tenebis, right? And what's great about it is that we pull in the layouts feature, we'll pull in the layers that are there. And now I have the ability not only to do cool designs, right? I can move things around, do a bunch of cool stuff inside the features we have, regardless if it's changing the font. You'll see there's different font options and the typography options that we have. But now I can start to tag different layers or variables within inside this template. So anything I tag with inside of this designer, I'm saying that I want to inject a new data feed and I want to replace these things from the template. So as I go in and tag these different things, now I can basically build out my data stream. So if I go back to my design file, and we'll fire this up. So this is basically my data stream and my data feed that's coming in. So I have the ability to build cool taxonomies. Again, this could be imported or exported in from existing systems if you have a naming convention or a taxonomy that you already use. And then basically from the right of this plus sign, these columns and these rows correspond with the variables I just tagged inside that kind of templated file, which I got from Tenebis as my mezzanine file. So I tagged that I can change the color, right? I tagged a bunch of other different things in there. I could change the logos if I wanted to, and kind of the call to action, the text within inside of there. Now, again, there's tons of cool features we can do with inside of here, but again, in the interest of time, I'm just going to change, for instance, the color of this particular row. So what this is saying is that in this row, apply these things to all of those templates that I just created. So instead of 1 image, I'm going to be outputting 8, right? Based on those different aspect ratios that I had with inside that static piece of content, and as well as my Facebook piece of content and my animated HTML. So the system's pretty smart. It knows that I made a modification. I'm going to save it. And we're going to save it. We're going to go back to our design file. And again, the creative automation platform SaaS-based, so it knows pretty instantly what's going on. It knows that some creatives need to be updated. It knows that I already have 121 of them. So I'm going to click on this creatives button. It's highlighting the things that I've just changed based on what I changed in that data feed on the first row. So it's saying that this one's going to change once you hit that magical button. It's saying this one will change as well. So I'm going to go ahead and hit update. Let's notify me again. Are you sure? Absolutely. So it's going to go out now and modify the color profile that I changed with inside that data feed to those 8 existing profile or assets that I had with inside of there. Give it a second. We'll refresh it. We'll see if it comes down, and I'll be able to preview all of the content that's in there. So all of these creatives that I've created, I can now preview with inside of this tool. And I'm going to sort these by design file. And you'll see that it created some animated HTML that I designed with inside the timeline prior to coming in. You can see that it changed some of the colors that I actually wanted it to change. And I can kind of come down here and start to preview different things with inside of here. Again, tons of cool features in here. There's creative review options. So if I click on this, it looks like someone commented that I need to check this version out. Again, I can tag things, tag different folks with inside the platform to start a little bit of a creative review process with inside of here. So basically, I created a template, or I imported a template from Tenebis, the digital asset management platform. I brought it in, templatized it to the things that I want to change based on the data feed, from localization to personalization to distribution methods that I want. So now I want to go out and distribute this piece of content. So I'm going to go back into my design file, and I have this option up here of distribution. Out of the box, the platform works with a lot of different social networks, right? As well as kind of some ad serving networks, as well as some DCO tools and technologies that's there. And again, we have an open API where we can, export out and push to different types of things that are out there, back into digital asset management systems, for example, or other places. So for the interest of this demo, I went into Facebook and created a new ad set. So I'm going to find some of those creatives I have. I'm just going to select this one. I'm going to turn this feature on that allows me to push ads live. So anytime there's a change inside the automation tool, it will push these out to Facebook. So as this goes and pushes, I can open up Facebook to my ads manager, where I'm now wearing the hat of the bid manager / media manager. I can go into my new brand awareness campaign that I want to run, and you can see that it just instantly pushed this down, turned it on, and it's now in review. And I can start to now do my bid strategies and things like that. So basically kind of what I've shown is from the governance of the piece of content, right, to templatizing those, building a data stream with translations, localization, personalization, as well as distribution models, and be able to push those out and create 120 pieces of content from that piece of one within minutes, right, and then distribute those out. So that said, I'm going to go back into the presentation mode. Let me fire this up here. So kind of the takeaway that I want everybody to kind of think about is that if you repeat it, right, from a creative perspective, you should automate it, right? There's a massive content gap that's out there, and Celtra's creative automation platform fills that gap. It's not a digital asset management tool. It's not an e-commerce tool, right? It's a gap that we fill for a lot of companies that are out there to accelerate kind of that content gap and that growth that's there. So again, if you repeat it, automate it, and let your DAM govern it, together with 10 of us, we were able to kind of build an integration where we can have that asset live inside that governed space, and then instantly accelerate kind of that creation from an import perspective and an export perspective. So if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me some emails, check out the website, do some research on creative automation, check out the hashtag out on LinkedIn, pop into our booth. And again, I encourage you to kind of check it out. It's a newer thing to the market. It's definitely exciting, and it definitely addresses a lot of things that are out there. I appreciate everybody kind of joining today. And if you have any questions, again, just feel free to kind of reach out in the booth to some of my colleagues, and or check it out on LinkedIn, or shoot me an email. Thanks.